Hey, welcome back to the podcast, Dr. Shaw. How have you been?
That's been fantastic, sir. It's always good to see you and hear from you and talk to you.
For anyone who doesn't know you, who do you say you are?
Ooh, it's a good question. Um, I'm a child of God. I happen to practice my calling currently in the field of education as school superintendent. I'm a father, a husband, a son, a brother, an uncle. Um, I'm a person who likes to help people by taking complex information and breaking it down into bite-sized, edible, understandable chunks. Um, I'm curious by nature. So,
I like it. Yeah, I'd say that that's one of the things that I've definitely remember from you and getting different information is breaking things down to the simple. And I think we've maybe exchanged some messages on Instagram where you'd send me current things and it's like I guess maybe I'd say in short, I didn't always pay attention to them or I didn't know how to pay attention to them because I'm like, there's a lot of like history that goes on with it and
mm,
I'm trying to wrap my head around it and I'm like, I don't want to get pigeonholed into a silo of thought where it's just, oh,
absolutely.
like this side's right. No, that side's right. And then
Yeah.
this person's the worst and then that person. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
even seeing some things just seeing someone being able to break things down simply, that always gets my attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for many of us, we live in such a high-paced society. We don't have the time or we don't take the time to really listen and ingest something.
Mhm.
And if something's not in your wheelhouse, it's going to take twice as long. And so people just wait for sound bites,
Yeah.
right? So on some level, um, because I think, God bless people with a natural curiosity, I ask a million questions.
Mhm.
And so when I teach and or I preach, I do them both as if I'm teaching or preaching to myself
Mhm.
and to find the level of the room. But like if I don't understand something, man, it'll throw the rest of the message off for me and I won't get it.
Right.
And so, I really try to dig deep into what, why, and how.
Mhm. It, and I guess on that same note, when you're looking at faith, and I listened to this podcast a few years back, and then they rebranded it, the BMA podcast, and being able to listen to it again with more of their insights, where they try to give you an Eastern and Western perspective comparison, but especially like the ancient Jewish perspective, where it's like, okay, hey, here are the things that look like problems when you're reading the Bible.
Mm,
They're
mm,
they're meant to get your attention. It's not just something that you avoid. It's done intentionally. And then like
man,
being able to kind of go on the journey with someone where they're uncovering and then encouraging you to ask questions. It's like, oh, okay. Now
yeah,
that you mentioned that, this leads me to this other thing. And then it leads me to other questions that people would ask. And I was like, yeah, that is weird. Like, I just
yeah,
got so used to reading the story to be like, hey, okay, happy-go-lucky story. And it's like, no, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. What's really going on? And
yeah.
having just listened to the episode where it's talking about Noah and the Ark, like we get used to the front half story where it's like, hey, Noah is this guy, he's great, built this ark, saved all the animals, flood came and went. When it went away, he came out of the ark happily ever after. And it's like, there's
Yeah,
that little story that's like really
yeah,
weird that happens after. It's like, what's this getting drunk? And
yeah,
then
yeah,
this
yeah.
son, that son, what's going on there? And it's like you go and you pair that with I won't go too much into it, otherwise I'll ramble a long time. But at least seeing where it's like you go from the Genesis story of Adam and Eve, and then seeing where they're talking about nakedness there, and then they talk about nakedness in this story, and it's like that's weird. And then you're
Yeah.
talking about creating, and then you look at destroying, and it's like, oh, okay, like the parallels kind of line up and it like brings you more and more to the center. And it's like this, okay, this is where the good is. And then this is where you can either get it wrong, get it right, but then the story doesn't stop. It kind of goes to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's like this constant mode of discovery where it's like, okay, you always have a choice. And then in the choices that you make, even when you get it wrong, there's fallout from it. But you always have a choice the day to day, and then maybe nothing comes of it, and you never hear of it again. It's like, oh well, that person just died, and that was it.
Kind of like life though, right?
Yeah.
Bible imitates life, life imitates the Bible because they're the same, you
Hmm.
know. Nothing's all good or all bad in life. And life happens, and like you said, you still have to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we miss that in the Bible. They were just regular people trying to live life, you know, and trying to live it by a particular set of values and mores and beliefs and in their higher power, which for most of us who are um, call ourselves Christians anyway, that is to Christ and so Jesus Christ. But I often tell people don't read the Bible. It sounds bad. I, don't read the Bible. I need you to reverence the Bible, but don't read the Bible with reverence type lenses when you read the stories about the people. Because they're just like you and I. They go through. I mean, we laughed the other night. We were talking about Adam and Eve. We're doing Bible study in our church on Genesis right now, and we
Hmm.
got the fifth chapter. And so it's like when you get this whole genealogy, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and there's a line in there where it says, and Methuselah begot so and so, and then it's like, and he had other sons and daughters, right? Yeah, so like that's real life, right? Like if you live real life, like not everybody makes it into the family story. Not
Hmm.
everybody is uh not everybody is newsworthy.
Hmm.
Not everybody wants their name newsworthy. Sometimes, um, daddy got a family and then he got, a couple other kids on the side, but it's like when you
Right,
read it,
right.
it's real life. And I'm not saying that's what happened there, but it's just
Hmm.
real life, like
I
why would
mean,
I list it?
yeah, and
Man,
it could have happened there, but I guess sometimes like initially when you said reference, I was trying to think like, what do you mean by that? But like almost treating it like you just put it like, oh, these are perfect people. And
yeah, like
then
sometimes we read the
that's
Bible
it.
like they're perfect people and it is this immaculate book that is for Sundays,
Hmm.
right? But it's not. It's a sociological book. It is a love story. It is a story of redemption. It is about real flawed people
Hmm.
who live life. Um, Many of them try to live life the best that they know how.
Yeah. And another point to that is like I remember going back to college world history class and
Mhm.
kind of being introduced. Maybe they did it in high school too, and I just didn't pay attention there as much. But one of the things that they kind of highlighted in this framework was that the Bible stories and like the Mesopotamian stories or the stories from around the same time, it's like they're not meant to be separated. But if you look at like, okay, the Bible being a book that's written by an author or like a collection of authors that have this continuous narrative where it's like, okay, hey, this is the culture that we grow up in that has polytheism, and it's like this is how they view gods or they create gods. Whereas that, like, when it rains, when catastrophe happens, this means we must have done something to anger the gods. But for some reason, like, from the beginning of seeing how the Bible is written, it almost has you, it introduces you to a God character, but then it almost has you ask questions of like, what kind of God is this that would do this? Where you're like, okay, hey, you made this great thing, but then you fast forward and you have another story, and it's like, wait, are you like tempting them to mess up, or like you got snakes in there talking, and it's like he's lying, but he's not lying. It's like, are you lying? And like, what's going on? But like again, going with that wrestling of being like, oh, okay, this isn't just like a cut and dry story. This is what happened. It's like if you put some time in there, it's like technically this would have taken much longer, and it just forces you to ask questions of like what's really going on versus just being, I don't like this, it's not cut clean, dry, it doesn't have the bullet points for me to just be like, this is the takeaway, this is that. Like it'll walk you around the block to get back. That's what they said. It's like the stories and the questions that people tell sometimes they take you around the block just to get you to go next door. But the whole point of that, maybe this is why older people speak in a way where it's with metaphors or parables and things like that, because it's almost creating this experience to say, hey, like pay attention to what's going on within the block. It's not just, I went next door, I got the sugar, I came home. It's like, okay, well, did you smell the grass? Did you see the roses? Did you say hi to the neighbor? Did you talk to this person? Did you do that? And it's like, why would I do that? It's like, it's not like everything isn't just like, give me the answer that I need to know right now. It's like, hey, maybe because you build a relationship with this next door neighbor now, when something comes up, it's like, oh, you know them. Or like someone comes in and checks in on you when you're sick, when you're like, oh, you feel like you're dead to the world, but they knock, it's like, hey, we hadn't seen you doing your usual stroll. Like we're not creeping on you, but we're just checking in on you because like we know currently how things operate in this area. And it makes sense to uh sometimes engage with the world instead of just being like, okay, you're supposed to be set apart from the world. So it's like,
Mm,
yeah, them over there, they do their thing, they're bad. And then I'm over here, I do my thing. But then if you happen to do something that's wrong, it's like, oh, shoot, I messed up. And instead of like confronting the mess up and like owning up to it and be like, huh, this isn't working. I need to do something else. It's like, ah, no, it's supposed to work. I'm supposed to this, that, and the other. And you start like justifying things in your head where like you're not, like, no one said like this, like, how do I say this? Like sometimes we read so many things into stories or like into our lives that's not outright stated, or maybe it might have been stated by somebody else, but then the conditions change. And because we're not aware of the change in conditions, um, we continue to rehearse the habits that we've done without actually knowing. It's like, huh, why am I doing this? There's no like hard interruption to challenge, okay, this is no longer working and it's okay to go in a different direction. It's okay to try something different, or it's okay to be like, hey, it didn't work. It doesn't mean I'm terrible, going to hell because ran through a red light or I failed to pay the bill or something like that. But hey, this happened. I acknowledge it happened. Take the either meet the repercussions or kind of like step back, regroup, and like address it and move forward from there instead of like hide it, bury it. And then you just have this mound or this mountain that becomes, what do they call it? You make a mountain out of a molehill, like something that started
mm,
small that could have been addressed there and then doesn't get addressed. And then it's like, what's
mm,
all the drama? What's this? What's that? And it's
yeah.
like, you remember that thing you just didn't want to own up to, you didn't want to face, you just kept like, no, 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 nobody's gonna come looking for that. And then like someone's knocking, it's like, hey, here to collect.
Mm. I'll say this. You started this program by asking me what you say, what do I who do I say I am?
Mhm.
Right. I think one of the things that I see most about people in the Bible is some people deem themselves as A people or B people or C people.
Mhm.
But when you really read the story of the Bible, we're all F people. We're all failures. We all
Mhm.
got an F on our test, right? And like it doesn't matter what you do to try to erase your F. You don't have the ability,
Mhm.
right? And so you get to this question about, who do I say I am? What do I call myself? Well, like the question in the Bible really is what do you believe? The Bible is an entire book, in my opinion, about faith. God showed favor to Adam and Eve. They didn't have the faith. So because they didn't have the faith, they broke trust with God. They did what was displeasing to him. And the rest of the Bible is God saying, I still love you. I still want you. I can still make you white as snow. And us not believing it. Right? Like, and so every now and again, some of us hear the clarion call and the spirit moves within us, right? And then God takes us from level to level to level to level, right? So
Mhm.
what you are this year, what you are in 3 years may not be the same, right? But but the premise of, hey, I'm good and they're bad, you really hadn't looked yourself in the mirror on some level. Like there are people who I don't think are good people, right?
Mhm.
But I dare not say I'm better than them because the reality of it is I'm just as broken a sinner as they are. The difference is I had the opportunity to accept Christ and I took it. Now Romans 8:28 says, and all things work together for the good, right? So we sometimes, I'm not gonna say everybody, but in general, sometimes people get to this place where they think because I've accepted Christ and because I'm trying to have faith in God, my life's gonna go fantastic. But that's not really what the Bible says, right? The Bible says, and all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, who are called upon according to his purpose. So you, I've had to learn that I don't even know what's good and bad anymore. I just think
Right.
I do,
Right.
right? I know what's comfortable and not comfortable,
Yeah.
but I don't really know what's good or bad anymore because God has taken some of the worst things in my life and made them some of the best things in my life. And he's taken some of what I thought was the greatest things in my life, and I've shown that they were not.
Yeah.
So, I think people sometimes take a step back. And that's what I say about the reverence, not reverence. Like hold the Bible in reverence as it is God's word. But
Mhm.
when you look at these flawed people, when you look at a Nebuchadnezzar who you think is just evil, um, he probably is, and so are you,
Mhm.
right? The difference is what can wash away my sins but the blood of Jesus. So like it's an internal change, and so when
Mhm.
as you begin this internal change, you really are on a journey, and so your journey will take you many places, meet many people, and you will change over time. My opinion, anyway.
Yeah. I think that's a good viewpoint. And what's funny, as soon as you said not knowing what the good is, immediately the image that kind of popped into my head was going from John the Baptist being like the person that baptizes Jesus, which is what a lot of people that are Christians, the movement came out of, okay, yes, he's baptized, but like in going through this podcast and seeing how they laid out Jesus's story of like the 3 years or the week before he's crucified, it's like his whole thing kind of launched off of the back of John the Baptist that could have been his rabbi, his teacher being beheaded. And it's like, okay, like that's someone that had a great conviction on what he was doing. And he almost became a bystander because of someone's mom wanting something. She goes to the king, dances for him. He gets infatuated and he's like, what do you want? Oh, I want this guy's head on a platter. And he's like, shoot, I gave him my word. Does
Yeah.
that. And then Jesus, I forget if they either had to like hide away for a moment, but then he starts his ministry within the same area where this guy just killed his teacher. And it's like after that, he does his thing for a week. The corrupt folks get together, have him killed, and then his disciples go into hiding, and then the Holy Spirit comes in, does its thing. And it's like a lot of people have been martyred, and I mean, from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want that, but it's like you don't get to choose what the good is necessarily, and it's not an invitation to say, hey, go make yourself a martyr to just be out here. It's like, no, you still have to be shrewd as a snake, and what is it? Soft as a dove.
I hadn't heard that one.
But it's like you still have to use common sense. Like when
God
they
gave you
say,
common sense.
right, right, you have to use common sense. So it's like when you have things, I'm pivoting a little bit, but like when you have things that are um like televangelists or people that are doing uh scheming, scamming, like misleading people, wolves in sheep's clothing, where it's people have this desire to just get the answers met, and then they get taken in by those that quickly just want what they have. And it's like, well, it sucks, but it's all kind of in this mix of life, but you're not gonna get like for those maybe that don't have the mental capacity to be like, okay, hey, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And then now I'm going to the J. Cole song. It's like sometimes it's like you get warning signs to kind of wake up, and it's not like the more I look at it, it's like you're not just gonna get by for being nice. And like again, reading the stories where you look at like there are judges, there are warriors, there are wars and fights, and like there are things that go on in the world now, but it's hard to like be on, okay, this is right, this is wrong, but one of those things where it's like it's life as it's playing out in real time, and it's got a lot of mess to it, but you have to participate in it. And it's one thing to like read the Bible and kind of look from 2,000, 3,000 years later, and it's like, wow, this person's crazy. Then it's like if you think about what would my life look like if somebody's reading it 10 years after I'm gone, 50 years after I'm gone, and it's like there's gonna be some junk in there. But it's one of those things that like as you live it out, you make the best effort that you can, and you take heed to what's come before, what's going on now, and kind of where you're heading. But like you're saying, taking what's being offered to you versus just being headstrong and like, I'm gonna do it my way or I don't care. Like whatever happens, happens. It is definitely continues to unfold, and I'm like, huh, oh, okay. It's different.
History is dangerous because sometimes in history we forget why people did a thing.
Mhm.
We know what they did, they don't we know how they did it, but sometimes we forget why they did it. And when it comes to life for a believer of Christ, why you do a thing is everything.
Mhm.
You and I can do the same thing, but if we do it from different motives, one may be pleasing to God, one may not, right? And so, I think, I think Jesus said, "Hey, you got two commandments in the Bible. It's the greatest two, right? Love God, love man, right? So we can spend the rest of our lives trying to do that.
Mhm.
You know, if does what I do, did I do it because I love God or love man, right? And if you're doing something outside of those two, then you got a question, right?
Mhm.
Because love God, love man does not mean, and this is controversial, right? But that doesn't
Mhm.
say love you. It says love God, love man. That's the two highest commandments. I'm not saying don't love yourself, but like when Jesus says you can spend your whole life doing those two things, then it should shape what you do and how you do it.
Mhm.
But your why should not change.
I
Like
like.
at your
Mhm.
core, whoever you are, what you do grows out of that core, right?
Yeah.
So I go back to say Bible of faith walk down, leave this long. That's why I say the faith, right? Like on some level, if you believe. that Christ is the Son of the living God, if you believe he called you, then much of what you do will come out of that core belief that you have faith that Christ is God is a reward of those who diligently seek him, right?
Hmm.
It is when we get shaky on what we believe, oftentimes when we do shady behavior.
Mm.
And you pick your biblical character, right?
Yeah.
It's when they get a little, hey, Samson, you know, you're a Nazarite. Yep, I know, but I'm hungry and I done killed this lion. So I'm just gonna, reach in his carcass and get some honey. Hey, bro, you know I'm not supposed to do that. I know I'm not supposed to do it, right? But I'm hungry. My flesh wants it. And I believe in God, but he really gonna punish me if you know, it's really gonna affect my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's small and trivial, right? But it gets bigger and bigger for us. But
Yeah,
we all have to ask ourselves the same question. Why am I doing what I am doing?
that's a good point. Yeah, and that when I think back to when we met and kind of having the similar touch points, that's one of the points that ET had made a lot. It's like, what's your why? Like having an understanding of like why you're doing what you're doing leads you to what you do, who you do it with, when you do it, where you do it,
There you
and
go.
all those points. It really ties into where like if you're clear on it,
Hmm.
it's not a hard decision. And sometimes it's like what's funny is about like why you're doing what you're doing. It's like if you're clear on why you did something, you could be tempted to lie, but if you're honest about it, even if other people don't agree with it, you can clearly say, "Hey, this is why it is." And I'd almost say pity the person. I guess I'm channeling Mr. T now. Pity the person that's going to challenge like, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. It's like, okay, well, you can have a difference of opinion, but at least the why gives an understanding or the driver behind like, oh, why did that person like what did you do? It's like, oh, he did it for this reason, selfish, unjust, or kind of going away from like you're saying, did you start with loving God and loving others as yourself? Like if you didn't go with that, then you went a different direction, and that why may have an adverse effect that doesn't benefit the people that are now dealing with the causes or the effects of your actions.
So that to me though, actually that's why leadership is pretty lonely a lot of times, right?
Hmm.
Because in leadership, you are your why is constantly questioned.
Hmm.
And people come up with all these, I have proof that he did this because, or she did this because,
Hmm.
like, but you don't, right? And
Right.
so when you hunker down and you try to lead from the right place and for the right reasons, you're not always understood. Even when you tell people
Mm.
this is why I'm doing it, you're not always believed. But you can't spend your time um begging and pleading people to, believe. I think you should make an attempt to communicate, but once you communicate it, you can spend your time crying about it, you can spend your time doing it.
Right. I think to that point, I was telling you, I went to this convention yesterday that was centered on leadership, and they call it aspiring mid-level career leaders. And I guess they look at people that are like 7 years into their careers to 20 years. So that's like you're you're no longer entry level and you're not yet at retirement. And a few of the points that they highlighted in there, one person looked at three things that you can do when you're in a leadership role. And you can, before you make a decision, you want to pause, reflect before you react. Within that pause, it'll allow you to pivot, which is adapt and shift your mindset. And then from the pivot, you can proceed to take purposeful action. And I think that really ties into what you're saying, where it's like leadership is something that not many people want to do because you're decisions get challenged, your actions get challenged, but everybody has an idea or an opinion on what needs to happen. But when it's time to take action, a lot of people are going to step back and be like, "Oh, I don't want to do it." But then um, something that the other speaker did after it, because they had a series of three speakers. The first was a doctor, the second was an engineer, and then the third was a military officer that served in the military in multiple countries and continents and is now still like in an officer role, but basically doing another thing about leadership, doing the work that people don't want to do, and then having made an impact on another leader that um, was working where she currently is, but asked those questions over and over to say, hey, what about this? What about that? And a lot of the things that she talked about were like the four stages of, I don't know if you'd call it leadership or I wrote them down. Also, I don't have them. I do I do have it right here. The reason I bring this up is that I do agree with you that leadership is something that's lonely, but it was encouraging going to a convention where many leaders, like currently there with some of their employees and like aspiring leaders. That's the whole aspiring mid-level professional. And
Mhm.
being a leader is that you're aspiring to be a professional as you present yourself to the world. But she mentioned this thing called team dynamics, and the energy in the room was so infectious because you had people that were just either excited to be away from the office, but then also happy to um, just
Collaborate.
collaborate. Yeah, that's exactly. You seem to have the words that are very timely and needing. So the
Sounds fantastic, though.
yeah, so when we were talking about a problem where you have a leader going into um, a new group and trying to get their group and their team to align, the she highlighted as like four key points, and they were recognition, evaluation, alignment, and execution. And with that, she
Mm,
mentioned that there are always four stages of team dynamics, and they are forming, storming, norming, and performing. And it's
mm,
like anytime there's a change that happens, whether a new person is introduced into the team, that's a new team. Like deadlines change, new management comes in there.
yeah.
You guys might be ripping and rolling. And they really highlighted on this point of like you have a big gap where like 90% of the employees are like 6 or 7 years that they've been on site, like less than 6 or 7 years. And then only like 10% is 30 years plus of experience that they've had on the site. So it's like
Mhm.
you have this giant gap where people that are going to be in leadership roles are going to be less than 6 years.
Mm,
So it's like we got to fill these gaps because this is something that's how would you say? It's something that's needed. It's a void that needs to be filled. And I guess the attractive thing would be to kind of, hey, I want to do this on my own. Or this was something the first speaker said, I don't need a seat at the table. I got my own seat. I've got my own table. Or yeah, sorry. Yeah, a lot of people pride themselves on not needing a seat at the table because they bring their own table. But it's like we're sitting in a room with over 200 people in there that are attending this convention. And she said, we're at many of these tables, you have like 6 to 8 people. And if everybody brought their own table, like there wouldn't be any space for us to like be in
mm,
there. You would, instead of like
mm,
50 tables, you would have like 200 tables and you'd be barricading the doors and things like that. And it's one of those things of like, okay, as a leader, you need to be able to check your ego and not be so focused again back to what you brought up about the two commandments about loving God and loving people is that yes, you're involved in the action, but if everything is always about you, it's hard to collaborate with other people.
That's right. That's so right. It's
But that's why I kind of felt the need to share that because I get what you're saying where it's like
mhm,
watching some of my managers and at times when I've been placed in a leadership position, it does feel lonely in a way of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And like people get buy-in. Like I'll give you some of the definitions for like recognition is step one is identifying the phase of the team. Like if you're gonna do something, you want to know like, hey, what is this group about? What are they doing? What relationship patterns exist? Like who's cool with who, like
mm,
the Myers-Briggs, the DISC assessment,
yeah.
who who is like what are people's preferences? And instead of like dictating to somebody, you're gonna do something because I told you or I'm the boss, it's like
Hmm. Hmm.
someone's not gonna take too kindly to that if you're new. And it's
Hmm.
like they don't know you from Adam. They're just
Hmm.
like, who are you? Why are you here? What are you about?
Hmm.
And then when you look at another point that they made about recognition, asking how do those power dynamics affect collaboration? Like the relationship patterns, how do those dynamics affect collaboration? Like, why does this lady not get along with this gentleman? Why is this person always seem like they're waking up on the wrong side of the bed? Like, why is this
Hmm.
person coming in hollering, just wanting to cuss this person out because
Hmm.
someone ran over their cat this morning or something. It was like you never know what people have got going on. But then from recognizing some of the patterns, you move on to step two, which is evaluation. And it's an assessment of the workplace relationship health. And this speaker, she touched a lot on relationship health. I believe that's what it was. No, relational intelligence. And it's one
Hmm.
of those where it's like you have emotional intelligence that a lot of people talk about, but it's like that's again self-focus. But relational intelligence is how are you able to relate to other people? Like someone might be upset because they just got a diagnosis for a terminal illness or they lost a loved one. They're going through it. Maybe they're going to be a father, they're going to be a mother, their longtime friend, they just got some bad news or they just got some good news. But it's like we'd never know those dynamics unless we ask the question or just think for a moment to place ourselves in their shoes. But I'll stop there, not to just go on and on, start giving a TED talk.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
But I figured I'd share that with you a little bit just to um, share the
Wish I could have
experience for
came.
one. What's that?
Wish I could have came. That sounds great.
Yeah, because it's like seeing people that are usually left to their own to lead people to always be like the the go-to point is nice to see those people in a room where they see other people that are speaking towards their pain points and giving them tools to take back and try out. And even after they gave their speeches, they gave their presentations, they still took the time, especially the military officer. She really took the time to ask, "Hey, did you have questions about what it is that I presented?" And they went on for maybe 30 minutes. It's like, okay, this person has a question. We take a mic over there. That person has a question. And in answering the questions, I think we finished up by like 4 p.m. and people stayed around to network. And it's like, okay, I came back to make sure I got like my timesheet turned in and do a little bit of work. But like during the 8 hours of being there, it's like I met the people at my table, never met before. And then randomly during the break when they said, "Hey, introduce yourself to somebody," I met, I just saw somebody over there kind of standing, and I was like, "Okay, you seem approachable." Go up, introduce myself, exchange a phone number, and it's like maybe I'll see you around at work. And just trying to make trying to make the connection with at least one person and not trying to do like the shotgun approach of like, okay, let me talk to everybody. Because for me, my personality, I'm like, that's gonna wear me out.
Yeah, yeah. I understand that. When I take Myers-Briggs, I'm always on the edge of introvert and extrovert. So I could
Mm.
break either way. And
Yeah,
there's sometimes it just makes me tired, So
yeah,
yeah.
that's good. Are you excited about the school year starting back?
I am. We'll probably be an A district on our report card this year. Teachers and principals and parents and kids work really hard.
Hmm.
So it's always good to go back with a little wind at your sails.
Nice. What's an A district?
So in Alabama, our school districts are graded A through F.
Hmm.
You get so many points for students' reading achievement, English achievement, writing achievement, science achievement, and math achievement. You get so many
Okay,
points for their graduation rate, so many points for the college and career readiness rates, where they have some kind of credential from industry or they've taken a dual enrollment class in college or something like that. So
gotcha. Cool. Congratulations.
that's just thank you.
Awesome. Is there anything you're looking forward to from, I guess, the back half of 2025?
I got a lot of decisions to make. This is my 25th year in education, and so
Wow.
I could retire at the end of this year. And so I've got to make some decisions at the end of the school year, which will be spring of 26. And so I've got to make some decisions there. My children are entering high school, so it's a big deal there. And so just I'm looking forward mostly to just being a father and a
Mm.
dad and a husband.
Yeah. Congratulations. It feels like when we met yesterday, they were just like,
Yeah,
just tiny. It's
yeah,
like,
man. They're
man, we're just
14, bro. They're 14. They'll be 15 in October. Yeah, it's crazy. Time flies.
it's a beautiful thing. It's just like I don't even know what I'm thinking. I'm just like, congratulations. Because
Yeah,
as I look at it, it's like now I can understand how you can look at certain people and depending on when you met them, they almost serve as like um guideposts or markers in your life. And
yeah.
you're like, okay, well, okay.
Been
So
that
as
many
long,
years, man.
yeah.
Yeah, it has been that many years. Yeah,
Awesome.
yes,
I
sir.
don't know why. I almost feel like I want to cry tears of joy for you. Maybe
Well,
that's a
I
sign
mean,
to.
you were around Asher when they were born, and they were born at 29 weeks. They were, in a NICU, and it was touch and go, man, for a while.
Mhm.
So to be able to have them home and to see them grow, it gives me a different perspective
Wow.
about life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
At some point
beautiful.
as a parent, you shift from being about you to being about your family, you
Yeah.
know. And so,
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end it.
yeah,
Um,
man.
is there anything you want to share with people? Should they be on the lookout for any of the school's social media, your personal social media, anything like that?
No, as best I can this year, I'm gonna spend the year celebrating our school system, celebrating my children and wife, celebrating my church,
Mm.
and just learning to grow, man. Continue to grow, continue to try to listen to God, continue to try to walk in that path, man, and just try to remain faithful. I think when you read about Enoch, it says he walked with God, and you go to Second Kings and you hear about Elijah and Elisha, and Elijah was the one that got taken up in the chariot. But if you go back and read it,
Mhm.
Elisha was the one every time they made a stop, some priest or some church person like, your master's gonna die. You just
Mhm.
gonna leave him alone. Nope. I'm ride or die with my guy until he leaves.
Mhm.
And I think for many of us, uh, for me anyway, once you once you finally hook in to why you live, I say never let it go. Pursue it. for the rest of your life.
I agree with that. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. It's always good to see you, man. Tell Pam I say hello too, man.
You will. I
All right,
will.
all right,
You
sir.
will.
Thank you, man.
You too.